Welcome to the Stop Down Photography Podcast, episode 46. I'm Scott Davenport. Today's topic is what Marcus Aurelius taught me about photography. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad to be back with you for another chat about photography, this shared passion of ours. And in today's episode, let's take one more step on our never-ending journey of photography. Today's topic seems like an odd one, right? The intersection of Marcus Aurelius and photography. And yes, I'm talking about the Marcus Aurelius that walked the earth millennia before the advent of photography, around 150 AD or so. So what does he have to do with photography, this thing not to be invented for almost 2,000 years? This is not an obvious pairing. Well, the answer lies in how Marcus Aurelius thought, how he chose to approach and perceive the world. I think that holds good lessons for photographers and artists, and today I'll share a recent experience that reminded me of this. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please do share it with a friend, share it on social media with your camera club, and if you can, please leave a rating on Apple Podcasts. It's been a couple of weeks since there's been a new rating, and the current fresh ratings really do help others find out about the show. And new listeners is good for the podcast, keeps it on the radar, and just grows our community. So if you have a moment, press pause, leave a rating. I'll be here when you get back. So a bit of backstory about Marcus Aurelius. You may have heard the name and not really know anything about his life. He was the last in the line of the so-called 5 good emperors in the Roman Empire, and his reign was a time of relative peace. Despite arguably being one of the most powerful people in the world, he didn't just go out and conquer everything. He was a deep thinker, and he's one of the best-known Stoic philosophers. Now, in modern parlance, that term Stoic, it kind of carries this connotation of emotionlessness, which isn't quite accurate. Stoics like Marcus championed virtues such as justice, temperance, wisdom, and Marcus Aurelius wrote a book called Meditations. It has become a definitive text on self-discipline, personal ethics, humility, self-actualization. It is filled with pearls of wisdom. Now, here are just a few quotes from Meditations. It's all in how you perceive it. You're in control. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. So you're detecting a theme here. One's perception of the world shapes your world. And a little interesting historical footnote. This book, Meditations, was never intended to be a book. Marcus Aurelius never intended to publish it. It was really just a set of notes to Marcus himself. And, well, thankfully, we are lucky that it wasn't lost to time. All right, so great, Scott, you told me about Marcus Aurelius, but what does this have to do with photography? For me, it's about the mindset. How I choose to perceive the world matters. Being open to the potential for a photograph. And I want to share a very recent experience that reminded me of this. Just a few days ago, as I record this, I went out to photograph sunrise. I headed out to the beach, and I was met with absolutely empty skies. Not even a wisp of a cloud to be seen. Now, leading up to the day I went out, the skies had been very interesting, incredibly colorful. Not so on this day. I'd chosen my day based on my schedule. It's when I could fit in this shoot, when I could carve out the time, and you get what you get. So I got to the beach. I set up on this outcropping of rock, no larger than a dining room table, just a pretty well-confined space. I assessed the scene, I found a composition that was reasonable, and then I waited for the sun to rise, knowing full well I was not going to get a glorious sunrise. Yet I remained parked on this rock. Why? This is a bust, right? In my mind, Marcus Aurelius. It's all in how you perceive it. So I sat on that rock. I watched the ocean. I listened to the surf. I let my mind drift. I daydreamed a little. The morning was calm. There wasn't a lot of sea spray in the air, so I got to take many deep breaths of crisp, cool air. I watched the pelicans sweep through, skimming the surface of the ocean, looking for their breakfast. I scanned up and down the coastline as the light changed, and all the while remaining open to the possibility of a photo, something other than what I'd composed waiting for the light to arrive. And guess what? More photos came. I found different subjects to photograph. A few steps up the coast gave me a vantage on a set of rocks which became an entirely different photo. The dark skies turned to that inky color of blue hour. The palm trees that were hidden now were silhouetted, starting to catch some of that golden light. Their height was catching the sun before the foreground was. More beachgoers showed up. The morning walkers arrived, and so did more photo opportunities. Behind me, as the shadows dissipated, I envisioned another photograph that would work well, a little bit of a longer exposure, some misty bits of ocean mixing in with the rocks, convey a very peaceful mood. I ended up spending 2+ hours sitting on this rock. And yes, I left with a few photos. But I also left refreshed as a person. The simple act of slowing down, taking in the world, enjoying a bit of nature, it produced photos, and it also rejuvenated me. I'll close this segment with one more quote from Marcus Aurelius. Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought. Staying optimistic, being open to photo opportunities that you have, or ones that may present themselves, and not necessarily worrying about what isn't there. And sometimes find pleasure beyond the photographs in the experience itself. And Marcus Aurelius taught me that. A bit of studio news this week. Just as I was sitting down to this microphone, finished rendering a behind-the-scenes video of this outing. So if you're interested in seeing some of the photos I captured during this 2-hour sit-in I had on this rock, head on over to my YouTube channel. I've added this video to my In the Field series on YouTube. And in addition to the photos, you'll get to see more of the behind-the-scenes video and some of the thoughts that I have as I'm watching the scene, waiting for nature to do its thing. Also in the studio, I've been spending quite a bit of time writing. I am working on the next revision to my On One Photo Raw Essentials book. Now, this book is for the Photo Raw users, explains the entire software package, all the modules, all the features, all the filters. The current edition, which covers the 2020 version of Photo Raw, available as both a digital ebook and a print book. And I'm planning to do the same thing and once I update it for Photo Raw 2021. Now, usually the digital version comes first and the print edition hits Amazon a short while later. But if that sounds interesting to you, you're a Photo Raw user, I suggest you get on my mailing list over at scottdavenportphoto.com. Why? Well, that's where I'll announce the book for sure, but also I've been known to give a discount code to mailing list subscribers when the digital book is released, and I'm hoping to finish the revisions in the next few weeks, and the print edition should follow shortly thereafter, hopefully by the end of the year. Special thanks to the members of the Patreon community. Month in and month out, it's your support, your contributions that keep this podcast running. And there's been a new member joined this week, so welcome. Thanks very much for joining us over in Patreon. You're going to find a lot of good things waiting for you there that are exclusive things for just Patreon members. It's a long exposure photography presentation, a handful of presets, a couple of full-length video courses, all made available for free to Patreon members. My way of thanking you for your support as you are making this podcast possible and helping support other things I do on YouTube that let thousands of photographers enjoy our craft and grow our skills in photography. If you are interested in learning more about the Patreon community, check the show notes. There's also a support the show button on every page of stopdownpodcast.com where you can learn more. And that will wrap up this week's episode. A little bit on the shorter side this week, but that's okay. Sometimes that's what the discussion is, and we're not going to fill the podcast with fluff just trying to hit a certain amount of time for each episode. We don't have to do that here. We'll focus on the craft and not worry about how long or how short the episode runs. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, please share the podcast with a friend. If you're listening through a browser, you can find the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. It's everywhere. Be happy to have you as a subscriber on your mobile phone. You can listen anytime, anywhere. And until next time, my name is Scott Davenport. Have fun.